This podcast is brought to you by HORE Chartered Accountants. HORE Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit horecharteredaccountants.ie. Now you're welcome along to the Brood and White pod. So here today to review the Galway senior hurling season, touch briefly on the club championship and what's going on in Galway at the minute. And then over the next few weeks, we'll hopefully have interviews with club players. The power rankings will be back, and we will firmly be building up to the club hurling championships across senior B and intermediate over the next few weeks. I'm joined by former Killimor manager and current Skehana-Mountbellew manager, Dessie O'Brien. Firstly, Dessie, before we get into it, obviously, over to Skehana-Mountbellew, Moylough this year, a good win for you there in the Division 3 League final a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's grand to get silverware in any competition you're in, and I suppose we kind of earmarked the league ourselves as a benchmark to see where we were and see where we're going really. Yeah, look, but sure, the championship will be a different story, Paul. You know, the league is brilliant if you use it to your advantage, and we did but look at unfortunately all year those players missing and in and out, and that's not our call, you know.
What attracted you to Skehana-Mountbellew,
Moylough? I suppose they came to me last November after I leaving Killimor, you know, and Killimor were brilliant to me over the last 4 years, and we had a brilliant relationship and still have. I wasn't going to. I'd missed out hurling and going to matches myself and watching games and that. But look at these are young, progressive club, I suppose, and they put a good structure in place, and they want to go places, and you know they came after me all guns blazing, I suppose, really, and I kind of was hesitant at the beginning because as I said, I was kind of tired after the 4 years in Killimor, but no, as the years gone on now, we're happy out and things are going very well with us, and as I said, they're a good young club, they have good structures in place, and you know, yeah, look, they have players in every level coming up from under 14 all the way to senior level in Galway. They have representation there, so yeah, good club and progressive club, yeah.
Just with that, you met Kinvara a couple of weeks ago. Just on the league, how do you feel it's being run, or do you feel it's effective in Galway? Because obviously there is clubs that don't have a lot of players. Players probably tend to get away during the league even when they can. How do you feel the league overall is being ran at the minute?
The league, as a manager's point of view, I suppose the league is a brilliant opportunity for 4 or 5 games that are organised by the county board or whoever, and referees and whatever. Yeah, it's very well run in that way. I suppose the come back to the Galway setup. I suppose a lot of smaller clubs anyway that haven't got the numbers, say, and they have a couple of players on the fringes of the Galway under-20s or Galway senior team. You know, they're sitting on a bench there. They probably should be allowed to come back with us. You know, that's my view as a manager. And I know a lot of managers will be talking the same view. It's not just me. You know, if you're number 30 or whatever, and I said the under-20s this year, they had a 6-week break, and the lads weren't. You know, anyone that was on the fringes weren't allowed to come back. They were stuck with the county. And for the smaller club, that's a big disadvantage. You know, especially if you're trying to keep the league as a priority. You know, if you want to make it more probably fashionable to the clubs, I'd say, you know, maybe have a little bonus at the end of it for the club if you win it. I know one time there used to be €1,000, €2,000 out of it for the club. Maybe it's time that we kind of did something like that again down the line, make it more fashionable. But look, at the league is brilliant. It's brilliant, but to be quite honest, I wouldn't like to be on the fixtures of any county board or Galway hurling board, especially because you have under-20s, you have minors, you have juniors, and now you have senior and intermediate and junior A teams all competing, getting ready for the championships. I know the junior A has set off, but you know, it's harder and harder on managers because the same players have been used up along, and I don't know what the solution is. No one knows the solution because you can ask 10 people that have 10 different answers, you know. But I would like to be on the committee of setting the fixtures anyway, you know.
Just with it, before we touch on the Galway stuff, we will come back on the club stuff later on in the podcast. But just obviously, the top eight teams this year in intermediate are going to be Premier Intermediate for 2026, and then the bottom eight we go into the intermediate grade. How big is it for clubs to be in that Premier Intermediate grade for next season?
Sure, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for the likes of for Skehana-Mountbellew, Moylough, anyway, a progressive club that's coming up. Like it's a huge step to go to get there. And there's a lot more of them. Like even the club I left, Killimor, they'll be thriving to get there. Kenvara, like there's a lot of young players in all these clubs, and I suppose the higher level you play and the higher grades you play, the better these young guys get. It's a big step up as I found out myself, like, because I went up for 1 year and came back down again, like, it's a big step up, but at least now you have a gap and you can, I suppose the senior B is going to make it's going to make a huge difference to all the clubs. Like you're going to have 16 and 16, I think, is that the
Yeah.
format, I think, for 2026. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. Yeah.
Just on, so Desi, we'll touch on, I suppose, Galway season overall, reviewing the season. Overall, how would you dissect the season for the Galway Senior Hurlers?
We should look at. I suppose as a hurling people and hurling area, we'd have to be disappointed. Like, we took three fierce heavy defeats between Kilkenny twice, Tip. You know, we won the games we had to win. Like, but I suppose overall it was a disappointing year, and not just in the senior. I suppose you have to look at the minor and under 20 as well. It was just a disappointing 6 months, really, or 5 months, or whatever the period was. Um, no manager went out to, or no player even went out to play bad or to give a bad performance. It just seemed to be just a terrible year. And so at the end of the day, no more than a club manager, the book ends with the Mihal Dunhu's and these. And, he didn't go to lose any game, like, or he didn't go to lads to be out of the championship in July or June. Like, I don't know. It was just a bad year, really, overall, from minor up, wasn't it? You know?
Yeah. The big, I think you touched on it there about the Kilkenny defeats, and I think guys come back in the Leinster final probably does paper over a couple of the cracks. Like Kilkenny were winning by 13 points at one stage. You look at the league, then I think we had three 12-point defeats to Tipperary, Limerick, and Cork throughout the league. So I think that's the most disappointed thing, isn't it, when you get those heavy defeats?
Yeah, sure. It's very hard. It's very hard to put your finger on one thing that went wrong, I suppose, or where it went wrong. As I said earlier on, like, Mihal picked a team that he thought, was the team, was the panel. You could ask 10 different guys around every part of Galway County that's in the hurling and that picked 10 different teams. But like, he picked the teams on the days that he thought was going to win games. It just didn't happen. Like, it just didn't happen. And, it's not a nice place to be when things happen like that. Like, like, he's a new man in the job. He's back in his second term. Mihal, like, he's a good hurling brain in him, really and truly. But he's going to be feeling as bad as anyone else in Galway the way things ended. I know he is. And his backroom team, because they're all hurling people. They're all hurling people at the end of the day.
Just those, I suppose, heavy defeats. It felt like in the Leinster Championship after the Kilkenny game that we got momentum, and even the Dublin performance, it seemed like there was real momentum going with Galway into that Leinster final. Where do you think it all went wrong then?
Geez, I don't know. As I said, no player, because the commitment that them players put in every day. They're training in the morning, they're training in the evening. Their personal lives are put on hold. No player goes out to play bad. I don't think you can put your finger on one thing, Paul. I actually don't think you can. It seems to be, did he get the mix right between the young and the old? Was there too much of one side? Was there too much young, too much old? I don't know. Was there not enough new lads brought in and blood them? Again, that's Mihal and his backroom team. That's their call. As I said, you could ask 10 different people around here, around Galway, and they'll tell you it's 10 different teams. At the end of the day, he's the manager. He has his backroom team. They pick the teams. So I don't know where it went wrong, Paul. I suppose are we physically up for the challenge when it comes to the big games? You know, when you look at the Corks and the Tipperaries, even this year, you have to admire Tipperary with their minor, their under 20, their senior. They seem to be just thriving. 2 years ago, Tipperary didn't win a game in Munster. I think maybe one game, and now they're in an All Ireland final. You know, is it their physique? You know, is it what's going on in the background? I don't know. You know, what is the answer? I don't know.
It probably does come back though, in fairness, this year there was a massive over reliance on Galway.
Oh yeah, but what a year he had, like really and
Yeah.
truly, like what a year, um, he probably dragged Galway through games there that, and there was no one to back him up as probably as such, like but my God, what a year that man had, like, and he showed it. But look at, we all know what the Manions give you. They're club hurlers, they're county hurlers, they're pure Galway men, they're pure Hasker Fohan men. They'll give you everything when they go out, like, and I don't know. We probably need another 10 or 11 of them lads.
It probably was the thing. We probably just, I suppose, a couple of the other forwards just probably didn't get themselves into form. There were certain games where, like Kevin Cooney, Brian Buchanan, and these players got themselves into form, but then I suppose for the rest of that kind of forward unit, probably just struggled consistently to get to that form, I suppose.
Yeah, we seem to be doing a lot of changing. Like, I don't know. We hadn't really, if you look at it, we hadn't really a settled
Mm.
top six, if you want to call it. We seem to be chopping and changing between Burdens from Loughrea, McLaughlin from Portumna, um,
Colin Lloyd,
what do
yeah,
you
yeah.
think, Malloy from Leitrim. We seem to be chopping and changing them. John Fleming was in and out. Another, I think, a fine hurler. These guys, we didn't seem to be settled. It just didn't seem we seem to be playing wheeling way out the field where I thought maybe okay, that's look at again, that's Mihals' call and his backroom team. They see these guys are training every day, but you can ask 10 managers and they'll have 10 different teams. But um, yeah, we didn't seem to be settled. I think that was the biggest problem. And I think we made four changes from the Leinster final to the Tipperary game, if I'm four, maybe five.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Good few
two
late
or
changes.
three of them, two or three of them as they started it against Tip, they weren't playing. They didn't even come on, I think, in the Leinster final. So they were straight in, like, and that was a very important game. That Tip game, in my view,
Yeah,
probably the
yeah.
most important game of the year.
It probably does come back to that forward unit that probably even since Johnny Glynn's departed for Galway, we are struggling to find a ball winner in that half forward line.
Yeah, sure. We're probably struggling in a few positions, aren't we? See, the game has changed too since the Johnny
Yeah.
Glynn time, I suppose, and it's only a few years ago. Your centre forward is not as, he doesn't have to be as strong as Johnny Glynn, but we don't seem to have ball winners on the half forward line that can actually take a ball. Um, you probably have to admire. Maybe look at there's young lads coming through. They're gonna have to get a chance next year. They're gonna get a chance. Look, Mihal is there for 4 years now, so he has his first year over him now. Next year there's a bit more pressure on him. But
We're surprised that
he will have.
I know we've worked with him at club level, but we're surprised Rashin Loin didn't see more game time. I think a lot of fans came away that day against Tip in the first round of the league, very impressed with the performance he had.
He did, yeah, but I don't think a lot of people realise that day against Tip, I think Oisin scored 2 points from play. It was actually the first time I seen Oisin Lohan live playing.
Hmm.
Even though I was with him because he was with the counties when I joined them. But he actually broke his thumb that day against
Okay.
Tip. Yeah, he actually broke his thumb that day against Tip, thumb or finger, I think it was a thumb. And he wasn't back in the setup for, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks. No, he was always in there with them training and doing the bit of the
Yeah.
thing, but he had no ball work. So look at Oisin did well to hold his place on the panel, and I suppose like the guy's only 21 years of age or something, so he has a future. And yes, I'd say he's a future Galway 11, 10, 11, 12 maybe. But Yeah, look at I thought Hushin did very well. He played with us in one league game against Turlock after coming back from the break, and then he went straight back into the Galway camp again, and we didn't see him again until Galway were beaten by Tip. You know.
Yeah, that injury obviously. Did you feel many younger players in this squad had breakthrough seasons?
But sure, you'd have to like sure. Look at Young Burns is making his Anthony is making his kind of his debut, if you want to call it that. He's a good guy, Young Malay, Conor Malay got his chances when he got them. I think he scored 5 points the first day against Offaly, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He got his chance. Young Lee, centre back. We have to learn our trade. Like you don't just go in like these guys. These guys got their chances now, and in fairness, some of them put up their hands. Could they have got more time? Possibly, yes. Was he trying to blood them for next year? That's his call. Um, but like the long and short of it is, we're going to have to find a lot of players in the next couple of 2 years. Where we find them, I don't know. Like, but I think we have to stick with the young guns. I do. I think we have to go all out and find these players. Like, you're talking about the Premier Intermediate next year now. You're going to have another 16 strong clubs there that you can go looking at, and the championship starts in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Now is the time to be getting these guys. Look at him. We might find a guy in a club that you'd never think of. Maybe it's time
yeah.
that we went away from just because you played under 14, 16 and minor. There's other players out there. Maybe it's time we looked at these things and look at Franny and Larkin and these guys. They're all good guys. They know they're hurling. They're a long time in the circuit. So look at they'll be at the matches and hopefully we'll pick up a few more.
You're looking at probably younger players. I know he's been there for a while, but in fairness, TJ Brennan probably did have a breakthrough season this year and broke his way on to the starting 15.
Yeah, should TJ stood up like for sure. We've been watching TJ with colleges hurling for the last couple of years, and in fairness to TJ, what you get with TJ, you'll get everything. Like he does the same thing for Clare Bridges, he does for Galway, like and um yeah, sure TJ's around a while, even though he's a young man, like but
Hmm.
he's probably going to be around for another while, like and we've been watching him on the Fitzgibbon there and Galway underage up along. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a great guy. Really and truly. Um, probably deserves a little more credit than what a lot of people give him. Like, but you know, I think he's a great find, a great hurler, and he settled into number 7. I think it was all year, and didn't let himself down or didn't let Galway down.
Yeah, even there, you've talked about some of the younger players, like even on the squad, Declan McLaughlin, Anthony Burns, Tiernan Killeen, John Fleming, Rory Burke, Joshua Ryan, Colin Malloy, even Gavin Lee too. I know he's been there for a few years, but still quite young. These are the players now that the Galway kind of need to build a team around for next year. Do you feel?
But sure, I do like, and like nobody knows where Dahi. Will Dahi be there at number 3? Will Finton be back from his injury? I don't know how Finton's injury is. Um, like these guys. Like in fairness to the likes of Dahi, like sure, like, the young guys, you can't just put in 15 young guys. I'd say, and say here you go now, guys, or 20. You need the experienced heads, like even the David Burke. To see David Burke in some of the games this year, like he was just a calm and influence. Look, David Burke has been immense for Galway and brilliant person, brilliant hurling person, brilliant captain. The young guys look up to him. Like he probably he probably taught half of them in school. I know, like, or had them in college hurling or something anyway. So like I know he's hurling with them. Um, but like yeah, it's a young man's game now. It's an old saying, and maybe it's time to bring them on.
Yeah, as you're touching though, these experienced players are still crucial to the Galway setup.
They're immense. Like you mentioned the Manions there. Like every team, club team, you need your experienced players standing up. Like and they'll bring through the young fellas. They don't have to be playing every game, but look at. I presume a lot of them will probably have a look at themselves in the next couple of months and over the club championship and see where they're going. But I'll go back to it. Like any Galway player or any player for any county at any level goes in there. He's gone in there probably in January, maybe November sometimes. Their life is on hold, and these guys have done that for a number of years now. So no one can make that call for anyone except themselves. And
Would
I'm
you say
sure
would
they're
you
looking at
see
themselves going,
would you see many players stepping away from the panel this year?
I'm sure. I suppose, as I said, like no one can make that call except the player themselves. And they'll probably have a chat with the management team and see where they're going. But yeah, sure. Look, we're probably realistically probably probably three or four to go, isn't there? You know, if to go. But that's their own call. And any player that steps away owes nothing to Galway hurling because they've done it all. You know,
Yeah.
they've done it
I
all.
think even Mihal's second year he was in charge last time, like he did fairly shake up the panel in when it came to his second year too.
He did, yeah. And I suppose, look at he had a panel. He came in there, after 3 years was it with Henry. Um, he came in there. He was only after leaving the Dublin set up. Look, he's going to need next year. He got this year now. As I said, kind of a free ride this year. But the pressure will probably come on him from next year now because yourself, the Galway hurling people and the Galway J people in general, they don't like second and they don't like not winning. So they're going to be putting a bit more pressure on it. But look, as I said, he has good hurling men with him, and Franny and O'Larkin and the rest of the guys. So look, they know they're there for 4 years now. So they have to make the calls, and they'll probably have to make some tough calls on some players.
Just with this, like when you're looking at the Galway team overall, how do we pick things up here now from 2026? I think personally, the first thing that probably needs to happen with Galway, they need to go back to being hard to beat because if you look at the games this year, some of them they were just too comfortable. Like you look at Tip, it was comfortable for them. You look at the games against Kilkenny, and you look at a couple of games in the league, like Galway are conceding quite a lot this year.
Yeah, where do we pick ourselves up? Sure, I suppose look at all them players that go back now with the club championship and probably back with their mates and back where they all started, so they'll start to enjoy it again. Where do we pick it up? Most of them guys probably need a break as well. Like, people don't realise the hurling year now is nearly 11 months, if not 12, and especially for the county player. Most senior clubs and intermediate clubs in Galway are back training since February, March. So if you're successful, you'll be going until November. That doesn't give you much. And the county lads will be back in November in the gyms. Where do we go? I suppose if you look at your Tipperaries, your Corks, and I'm using them too because all you have to do is look at their under 20s and look at their senior team. Their physique is huge compared to a lot of our guys. Now, is that down to who we're picking? Is it down to our gym work? I don't know. That's a managerial call, really. Um, but we don't seem to be as physical or look as physical as a lot of the other counties. And to be fair, I think that was a big telling fact this year where we weren't as physical as other counties, especially in the big days.
Would obviously Gavins at 60, see that? Would you still be going with that as the long term project? They stuck with him this year, even throughout games when it wasn't going well.
Yeah, the stuck with Gavin at 6. Yeah, I always like to see TJ Brennan. He's a one club man at 6. I thought he'd be always a 6, but that's my own view. And you could ask anyone else, and they'll probably have their own views. But yeah, look at he stuck with 6. He had Dahi at 3. He seemed to have nailed down his midfield. We just seem to be doing a lot of chopping and changing in the forwards. I just thought, personally, now this is my own thought. This is nothing. I just thought we were making too many changes for different matches with different players in the forwards. As I said to you, like I think 4 different guys came on against Tip that didn't even feature in the Leinster final. And you're looking at there was players there named at number 25 and 26 probably didn't get a run, probably didn't get a game. Um, look at every managerial group is different. So look at he has a lot of thinking to do, and they have a lot of thinking to do, I suppose, over the winter and watching club matches. And look at you don't know who they'll find or what they'll bring in over the club. But yeah, look at he got young Lee has to be. We have to stick with it, you know. We have to.
Overall, then, if you're looking back on the season and where Galway need to improve for 2026, where is it for you?
Where is it for me? Where they need to improve? I think the physical aspect of the game. I think we need to be. I don't know. We don't seem to be bulked up enough. We don't seem to be. We don't seem to be as physical as the Corks, the Tips, the Kilkennys. Like if you look at the Tip team, they ran through us. You know, we kind of stood back off them. Um, we have 8 or 9 good, big, strong men. I'm not saying that we need 15 or 20 strong men, but we need to be more physical. I think, or we need to be. That'd be my view. Um, where we need to go, I don't know, like our under 20s this year, like they were disappointing. I think we need to start from down below, building up. I do. If you look at the tip set up at the moment, like they have Woodlock and the minors, they have Cummins and under 20, they have their senior management in place, and it all seems to be coming together for them, doesn't it? I don't know what their under 14s and 16s are like, but I presume they have a serious academy coming through. Do you know? Cork seem to have a big academy. Limerick seem to have a big academy. I think we have to start at the bottom now. I do, and come all the way through. That's my view.
Yeah, you mentioned there about Tip coming through. It's really to get that intensity and aggression back to in defence, isn't it?
Oh, and overall, I think it's massively important. Like we were always a feared, Galway was always a fairly feared team when you go back and you're playing games like, but that seems to have gone from us. We seem to be getting a pushover now. And we seem to be pushed over too easily. But as I said, Paul, it has to come from the bottom. It has to come from the county board first of all. What do we want? Like to be fair to the managers of all the teams, like we're trying to train in Loch George. We're trying to train. I heard the teams were going down to Clare to train. Like we need a base now. We need a base in Galway where we can call our own. That we can do everything in it. We can play matches. We can train. We have a gym. We have our S&C coaches there. We have everything. I suppose a bigger centre of excellence. I know with Loch George and all that, but you know, we need everything has to come together. It's like anything. It's like anything in life. If you want anything, you start from the bottom, you build it up, and everything comes together then as one. So I just think we just need to get everything together from the bottom up, um, and the county board have to put in a little bit more emphasis maybe on underage, um, the academies underage, and see what we're running through there.
You've mentioned it a couple of times there. Like there was great expectation with the under 20 team there. It didn't work out. Same with the minors. I think we really need to push on now in both of those grades too for 2026. Now, I do think the under 20 is actually topping their group in the round robin system has come against them because they've been accustomed to this 5 week break now, 2 years in a row.
They have and in that 5 weeks, like it's very hard to keep a team motivated and try and get matches for them and that. Um, you know, what does the manager do? He like Fergal he's a great hurling guy again, and he has a great backroom team with him. Um, but what does the manager do? In them 5 weeks, he was trying to train those lads doing exams. Um, you come second in your group and get an extra match, then you're playing with fire. My belief is you go out and you win every game. That's my belief in any competition you're in. Winning becomes a habit then. Um, maybe some of the players should have been sent back to their clubs for that 5 6 weeks to get an extra bit of hurling. Um, that's one of the gripes I have with probably the two under 20s and senior teams is that the players on the fringes, we'll call them, that just weren't making the 26. Like a lot of them players should have been allowed to play in the leagues, especially the under 20 league or the under 20 championship or whatever was on at the time, and the senior league and the intermediate leagues, Division 1, 2, and 3, whatever you want to call them, with their clubs. Even just the matches, and go back training with the guys in, because then you're keeping hurling going and you're keeping everyone moving. Like, you can't beat
Yeah,
hurling.
we've actually seen that on the football side of things. The football management would have released the non-toggers back to the clubs for the league games, while the
Yeah,
hurling has been the
yeah.
opposite.
Well, I know, Paul. It's every manager has his own, but like our, the under 20 management and the senior management seem to be working off the same page on this. Um, maybe it's just no harm to send them back to their clubs and get a bit of hurling in them. I'm not saying they have to train with their clubs. I'm saying this the day of a league match or an under 20 league or an under 20 championship, let the fringe players play. Okay, the guys that are playing are getting games, but then you have another 15 or 20 guys sitting on a bench,
Mm.
with the rest of us. So they need to be hurling. Now, look at again, every manager has his call, and that's their call. Nothing we can do about that, but that's their call as a managing team.
Yeah, important for the minors and twenties to make a big push now to win a Leinster title next year. Do you think
The minors.
the minors and the under twenties? Do you think it's important for
Ah,
them?
yeah, we should look at it. Look at both teams will be pushing like this. Look, there's one thing with the managers we have in place. There'll be nothing left, left unturned. Like they'll go at everything.
Mm.
I think it's very important that we're competing heavily on all aspects in Leinster. Um, but it just seems to be we're falling at the last hurdle all the time. I don't know. Do we think we're better than we are as a county in hurling, and we need to wake up and see that there's a big problem somewhere? Um, have we high expectations? Yes, we have. Um, maybe them expectations are too big. Maybe we need to come down a step. And and I'm talking about the whole aspect of hurling now. I'm talking about everyone. Like, I'm not talking about the managerial or the players. I'm talking about the whole thing across the board. Like every year, Galway are in the top four. We haven't been in the last 2 or 3 years now. Which is scary. You know.
Just before we leave, to talk about the senior hurlers, Dessie, and talk a bit about the club championship and maybe new faces who could come through. Who are the top performers this year for you for the Galway senior hurlers in 2025?
Sure, like you'd have to. Who am I? But sure, like the man. Cathal Mannion was just superb. Like I thought. I thought Tom Monaghan tried in every game. His heart was in it in every game. He tried. He tried very, very hard. Again, Tom seems to be in and out, and you know, but he gave it everything. TJ Brennan had a great year. Lee centre back. We left him there. Look, at things mightn't have worked out for him all the time, but at least he's learning his trade. Um, Fahy and goals. I thought. Look at he was very unlucky with the suspension or whatever. Like, but yeah, he's another good young fella. Morrissey, cornerback. Tiernan Killeen, I know he was taken off in a lot of games and he mightn't have scored in a lot of games, but his work rate was immense. His work rate was immense, and I suppose if you look back at some of the stats, the scores he made and the runs he made for other players doesn't always, young Malloy was very good when he came on. I think it was 5 points he scored against Offaly. Look, there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives. We can't be always negative. So I think they have to just rejig for next year and get going again, get back on the cards.
Is there any faces for you that need to be called in, the club hurlers that weren't involved with Galway this year, that maybe we should be looking at for next year?
Is there any players?
Yeah.
Look, I suppose I could name 3 or 4, but like it's a two-way street here. I suppose it's an awful commitment. If you're going to go in with Galway, like it's an awful commitment. Like you're looking at going back in November. You're looking at day training, night training. You're looking at hot to eat, when to eat. You're going to matches. You're going to training. Your social life is gone. You're a young fella in college. You don't know what's going on. So you know who. Sure, I could name a few, Paul, but look at I don't want to name anyone to be honest, because there is a few out there that I have my own personal thoughts on that probably could be in, but
Who would they
and
be?
are good enough. And I did say to you last year on the podcast when we did the preview on the Tina Kildare game that John Fleming to me was
Yeah,
always a fine hurler. He wasn't in at the time and he got his call again. And yeah, he was probably unlucky. For my view, he was unlucky to be left off against Tip. I didn't think he did much wrong, but I just have a great time for that guy as a hurling guy. You know, um, like young Hanrahan from Loughrea there, Henzy, he's a
Kieran
fine
Hanner.
hurler. Yeah, fine cornerback. Do you know these guys have to be developed like Kieran Hanrahan last year was probably one of the best cornerbacks in the Galway Championship. If you want to be realistic about it. But look, yeah, we all have our
Actually,
views on different players.
yeah, I was only looking at the Galway Boston team that won the Boston Championship, and it's a star-studded team, like, and he's starting
Yeah,
quarterback for them.
yeah, yeah. You could have three or four of that dim lads on the Galway panel, no problem, couldn't you?
Yeah,
I've seen them myself actually. Yeah, it was a brilliant team. But I'd say Paul, going back, if you talk to the academy setup, I just one quick one on that. I was talking to two academy coaches there 2 weeks ago with a chat over a cup of coffee, and I was saying what went wrong. Like they're blaming a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not happening at underage." Of course, it's happening at underage, but what they brought up to me was that at under 14, every club sends in their 4 or 5 players at the beginning of the year. There's 6 or 7 sessions in to push it down to 40. All them, all we have as an academy is 1 hour a week, maybe with them guys. Maybe two. Now you're looking at top class coaches all the way up along at underage, under 14, 15, 16, minor. You're looking at top class guys like that love hurling, love Galway hurling. And I don't think, say, the under 14s, 15s, and 16s are probably getting enough time with the panels when they pick them. It takes 6 or 7 weeks to pick a panel. And then when the panel is picked, all they're getting is about an hour and a half every week. Is it enough? I don't think so. Where do you put it in? I don't know. I'll go back to my fixtures. I would like to be on a fixtures committee in Galway anyway because
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
up in the
No,
air.
that's a good point of fairness about the
Mm.
underage there. Um,
Yeah,
just briefly, I suppose, on the club championship. You obviously have vested interest with Loughrea when it comes to
mm,
the senior championship. Just even Loughrea's year last year and everything. Your son, Shane O'Brien, obviously, wing back.
yeah.
How special was that to see them finally get over the line?
Paul was look at it. It was a special day, really and truly, especially for myself. I think we counted afterwards. We had nine. I had 9 of them lads in a Fela final against Turlock. I had them at 112. This is only personally now, and I had them at 116. I didn't have the Loughrea minors. Um, and then you had other coaches in Loughrea that never won anything. Like these guys never won anything. Say the Shanes and the Joe Moonies and these guys, Garage Lucknans, and the Kerry, they won nothing at underage really and truly. They were getting bet by a superior Turlock team at the time and a great Kieran Bridge team at the time. And we just came up third, fourth all the time. But yeah, it was an emotional day for everyone, I suppose. But it was great for a club that was knocking on the door for so long and has given so much to Galway hurling over the years to get over the line. Like, and look at, I have no doubt Cappy will be back again and they'll be back again as strong as ever this year. And
Loughrea probably
yeah,
even have regrets when they seen what Navina did then in the club final.
they did, yeah, they did. I just think it just went. They had their chances. They were with them all the way. But look, sport is cruel, and there has to be a loser. And yeah, of course they have their regrets. Yeah, but look, they'll dust themselves down no more than the Galway lads, and they'll be back in the wagon again in 3 weeks' time. You know.
Yeah, second week of August, obviously the club championship getting underway. If you're looking at the group system, it's just for people who probably need to probably refresh themselves with the club draw. It was a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, but in Group A, it's Moylough, Athenry, Gore, Thomas's. Group B, Loughrea, Kilkenny, Crowell, Clonmerdaley. Group C, Ardrahan, Castlegare, Turlockmore, Clembridge. And Group D, Cappy, Tommy Derkins, Sarsfields, and Ormore and Mary. Who are your favourites at the minute for the senior championship, Desi?
But you're probably looking at, I suppose, Paul, you're probably looking at the Turlocks. Turlock are thereabouts all the time. Look at this. I think everyone in Galway can't understand why they're not getting over the line, but they're not far away now. Loughrea, sure, will be thereabouts. Capitagal will be thereabouts. They showed everyone last year what kind of a club they are and where they can go, and they're not afraid. Like that, you know. After that, you're probably looking at Clare Bridge, like always hanging around there. But like, look at the Clare Bridge group. My God, pick a winner out of that group, and the best of luck to you because any of the four teams can come out of that group. Thomas's, I touched on it earlier on, like, and I wish Vincent the best of luck with his injury, like, but I don't know how bad it is or whatever. But like, if Vincent is missing for Thomas's, he's a big loss. If he's playing, he's a huge gain, and they won't be gone far away. They're experienced guys, the Davy Burks, the Connor Coonies, Shane Coonies, these guys, they're gone nowhere. They're still as good as club hurlers in Galway, and you know, I suppose they'll be thereabouts with a shout.
Who would you be picking as your winner?
I'm gonna say that right.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I'm gonna say that right, Paul. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say that right. I'm gonna stick with them. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they're a fine bunch of young men, and like that, they have the Johnny Cohen and these guys mixed in with them, and it's just it's just amazing what's going on in there. And Tommy Kelly and Gavin Keary and these guys, what they're doing in there at the moment is, we see it from the outside. It doesn't go unnoticed. Um, it's just a serious setup. No more than a lot of setups, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of you.
Do you think it'll be tricky for Loughrea this year? Obviously, champions going in now to the championship. Saying it's sort of different dynamic. Obviously, they're chasing that title for so long.
Yeah, yeah, but as I said, they have a very experienced backroom team. They have a very experienced backroom team. They have very experienced players in the middle now. Like what people don't realize, I suppose, is Johnny Cohen is probably the oldest in the team, and then you have younger lads there who are in their 20s, and then you have a bunch of other young lads coming through. Look at, they'll go for it. They don't care. They're different breeds. They like to win. They know what it's like to win now, and maybe that'll inspire them. But when you have a group of neighbours, and that's what they're in now, they're in with, I think it's three neighbours along with them. The neighbours won't want to see them winning either. So, it won't be that easy for a group either to come out of now. Even though people would say they're favourites, but when you have your neighbours beaten in any competition, it's a tough day. Hmm?
Just then in Senior B, Group A, Ballindereen, Lee Mellows, Teen Aberdeen, Kilnadima, Leitrim. Group B, Port Pierce's, Moylough, Ahasco, Frohana, and Portona. Who would you be picking as your Senior B winners then, Desi?
Who would I be picking? Should like Tina and Leitrim in the first game. I think that's the first game of the championship for them. That's going to be some battle, isn't it? Like you'll have to respect Moylough just down. Jerry Spellman over them this year. You know, they'll give it a go now. They will. They have nothing to lose this year, I suppose. I suppose that's the beauty of the Senior B this year. You have nothing to lose. Um, there's no relegation out of it. You can try your young fellas. You can go at it. There's three or four teams there, like Teen Abernary, Leitrim, Moylough. Depends what Portumna have coming through. I don't know. And then again, a Haskell. If the two Manions perform, is there any better hurlers in the Senior B than the two Manions? Can they bring them through on their own? You know, Brian Mahoney is. I think Brian is with them this year.
Yeah.
And you know, they won't lack. They'll be gunning for it. They didn't like where they were last year from where they came from the year before. So yeah, that's a serious competition now. There's eight very serious teams in that and very even teams.
Yeah.
You know,
And there is a thing as well where none of these teams want to be a Premier Intermediate team next year as well.
that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, like that. They're going to be there next year, and one is going to get out of it. And like, cheers, Paul. Anyone that picks the one out of that, I go to Paddy Powers tomorrow morning if I knew it. Hmm? Yeah, I don't know. There's a 4 or 5 teams there that can definitely win that. You if I was to say it at the moment, I'd be putting Mullya probably. I'd be probably putting Mullya just because they came down from last year and they're experienced, and they'll pull themselves out of it, And Jerry Spellman's a good guy, good manager.
Just then the Intermediate Hurling Championship, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to pick a winner there because you're obviously the Skehana-Mountbellew
Yeah.
manager at the minute in the Intermediate Championship. But Group A, Ceylon, Athenry, Mealy Gaircourt, Skehana-Mountbellew. Group B, Craughwell, Moy, Killimor, Carnmore. Group C, Ballygar, Annadown, Clarenbridge, and Kinvara. And Group D, Kilbeganty, Beha, Rahul, Newcastle, and Turlockmore. It is going to be a really competitive intermediate championship this year, as we mentioned earlier on.
Yeah,
Cylon first up for yourselves.
yeah, Silence, sure. We've had them 3 times when I was with Killimor, like, and you know what you're going to get. Like, they're look at no more than the club I'm with at the moment, Skehana-Mountbellew, like they're a progressive club as well, and they're really pushing hurling down there. They're passionate. They're they're going to bring everything to the table that day against us. Yeah, but it goes back to your league, Paul. I want to comment on one team there, and that's Ballygar. Ballygar now next year will be playing in Division One hurling, even though they're an intermediate team. So they're 2 grades down from senior, but they're going to be playing now with probably the top teams in Galway next year. In the league, they it's a huge progression for them in the league, um, and they've done an awful lot of work over
Harry Holmes
it.
and Conor Maloney have been massive,
Oh
like for
yeah, yeah. Like these guys are serious. Like, and I'm not just saying that. Like, we've been watching them now for the last couple of years, and even for Skehana-Mountbellew and my lot to go to Division Two next year. You know, that's where you're progressing all the time. Like, you're every time you're meeting the bigger teams, or like Ballygar are going to see some change next year when they come up against the Thomases, the Lochrays, the Turlock Moors. Like, it's a different level, but that's what makes you better. And it's going to stand them in the intermediate championship this year, I can tell you. You know, because they're a great league run.
and even just finally with that intermediate championship, yeah, it's going to be really competitive. If it feels like it's first year in a while where there's like fair enough looking at the intermediate championship from the outset, Tina, where the standout team, it doesn't feel like you have that this year.
There's no standout team. I think there's, again, going back like the senior B. Probably is there probably there's probably 5 or 6 teams there. You know, like, that are as good as any team. Like the Carden Moors. Kinvara. Like Kinvara in the final last year. Carden Moor beaten in the semi final. Aircourt. I'd say if you look back over it, Paul, Airport have probably been in the last 6 semi-finals in intermediate, not final. We beat them in the intermediate final with Killimor. But like, they're going to be there again, like, and they know how to win intermediate now. They know how to play intermediate, and they know how to go at it. So there's going to be 5 or 6 teams there. It'll be as good as championship, but the intermediate championship, nor the senior B, is fairly level now. It's fairly level. Where you have a little bit of a gap in the senior A, I think, between 3 or 4 clubs to the rest. But intermediate and senior B is just across the board. Everyone is there. Everyone is there.
Great stuff. That's all we do have time for on today's podcast. As I said, we'll be building up to the club championship over the next few weeks. Hopefully, hearing from club players. We'll have our power rankings back as well in the lead up to the championship. So we'll be building up to that now for the next few weeks. Club hurling championships getting underway in the second week of August. But that's all we do have time for on today's show. Thanks a million to Dessie O'Brien for coming on this
No
week.
problem, Paul. Thanks for having me on.